What's happening, everybody? Corey Winkoff here. I'm the program director over at FLG, and I also started and run the FLG Boys and Girls Box Lacrosse Training Program that kicked off this past weekend, which we thought was awesome. It was really fun. It was super successful, and I thought all the players in the box rinks got better and learned hopefully something new. And I think box lacrosse is something that can really help players as they move into the field game. And I think it's important for players and parents watching and coaches who are watching to understand that box and field lacrosse, there are crossover. There's things that you can do in the box rinks that can help you in the field. At the same time, they're two different games. So similar to soccer, right? You have futsal and then you have outdoor football. Okay, so futsal is something that is a little more challenging. It's played in tighter spaces. It's played with a different type of ball. Box lacrosse is the same thing. It's played in tighter spaces. It's played with smaller cages. There's boards up, so there's not really an out of bounds. So it makes the game a lot more fun, in my opinion, because the ball is always in play, and it's also a little bit more challenging. So, when you do score that goal, it's a little bit more rewarding, just like in soccer. So, on Saturday, we started with some of the fundamentals of the box game that can really help tenfold as you approach and play in the field game. And, the first thing that we started to teach our players, both the boys and the girls, is the understanding of the difference between playing with the stick in your inside hand versus the stick in your outside hand. And in the box game, your stick should always be in that inside hand because for the most part, anytime you're in your offensive end, you're always in a position to potentially get a good shot off. You're always a threat because it's such a small space and you play in such a tight area. Also, your angles are so important in the box because it's such a small cage and because you're playing in tight spaces. The hand that you have your stick in can make all the difference in terms of getting a good pass off to your teammate or getting a good, accurate shot on cage with a pretty nice angle. Another thing that's important is not just the difference between the outside hand and the inside hand. It's also the ability to play with two hands on your stick at all times. So in the field game, a lot of times, players are taught to switch hands constantly to protect their stick or to throw a pass. In the box game, you don't really have time to do that. If you switch hands, that extra half second could be all the difference about you getting a shot off or you getting a pass off successfully. Also, having one hand on your stick is tough because you can't really get a pass off. And again, the extra half second you take from having your one hand on your stick to adding that second hand on your stick could be the difference about getting a shot or a pass off. So those little nuances are fundamentals of the box game that we teach our players that are going to really help them play quicker, play faster, play more accurate, something that can easily translate and help you as you move into the field game. So another huge concept besides those fundamentals that we talked about playing with two hands and playing with your inside hand is teaching fakes and being deceptive. So a box fake is something that we taught to everyone on Saturday. And a box fake is not a big, hard fake where you kind of roll your wrists and extend your arms, because if your arms are so far away from your body and your stick is all the way out in front of your face, you can't get a pass off. But with a box fake, it's just a simple movement with your top hand where you kind of curl your wrist and bring your stick right back to your ear. And that little fake, that little hesitation could freeze a defense, all right? That could get your defenseman to lunge or get out of place. And that little hesitation could allow you to either get a pass off or get a shot off or get a nice angle if you're trying to attack the cage. And it's also important that we teach that fake, that little box fake, because now your stick is right back to your ear where it should always be in the box ring, because now you are in a position like we like to call the quadruple threat position, where you can make one of four things happen. You can throw a pass, you can throw another fake, you can dodge out of this position, and of course, you can get a shot off. So that's your quadruple threat, very similar to basketball with their triple threat position. So playing near your ear, all right, whether it's in your right hand or your left hand, and keeping two hands on that stick and being able to throw fakes, not just successfully without dropping the ball. That's, of course, with some of our younger players. But now we're starting to teach our middle school and high school players, when do you throw those fakes? And the first concept and drill that we did in our station work taught exactly that. We taught not only how to throw a box fake, when to throw a box fake. And a big time to do that is actually when you're coming off of a pick, okay? And when you're coming off of a pick, typically if that pick works successfully, you're going to have a step on your defender or your defenseman, and you're going to have an advantage, okay? And what can create even more of an advantage is if you throw a little box fake, all right? And that little hesitation move is something that can also translate to basketball for people that like to watch college basketball or coach CYO, or, coach high school basketball. When you're coming off a pick and you're driving to the bucket, a little hesitation, a simple look back, okay, all right, a little stop of your dribble at the top of your dribble, and then a little continuation. Those little hesitations and those little fakes can be all the difference in terms of freezing the defense and allowing you to get to the basket or to the goal, or maybe getting a pass off for your teammate who might be cutting back door to a spot where they're then a threat. Okay, so we talked about when to throw that box fake coming off of a pick. We also talked about not just how to come off of picks, which is important. We talked about as the Dodger, it's important that it's your responsibility to try to get your defender to run into the pick. It's not the picker's job. That usually results in a moving pick. But we also taught how to set a pick properly. And setting a pick properly all starts with how you set up the pick. Usually we like to initiate a give and go before the pick is set. In the boys game, it's really great because you can actually get out of the line of sight of the defenseman and then come out of nowhere and set that pick. All right. But in the girls game, you can't necessarily do that as much. You can't set blind picks. So, we did teach how to distribute your weight when you set picks for both the boys and the girls. We talked about how to open up properly so that way the back of your head is never facing the ball, which is not a good thing. And we also talked about where to position your stick when you set a pick, so that way when you do open up, you're in a position to be a threat to potentially catch a pass and attack the goal, or catch and finish. Okay, so that little nuance, the idea of how to set a pick properly and what to do once your teammate comes off that pick, is something that you can never get too many reps of. We're going to repeat that and do more of that over the course of the eight sessions in our box program. But understand that's where it all starts. Setting a pick properly on ball is huge. And we set them in 2 different locations for the boys, 7th grade and up training. We taught a little bit of it in the younger session, and then with the girls in one spot as well. And we're going to start doing more and more of that as the session goes on. And I think that's kind of that's really the root of box lacrosse, that 2-man, or like for the girls, we call it the woo-man game, using pairs, 2 players to work together to create opportunities on the offensive end. We're also going to start talking about defensively how we want to play picks and the proper way to help your teammate out who is getting picked. Those are things that we're going to be talking about in the weeks to come. Okay, so the box program, just so you know, as we talk to the players about how it's structured, we always do some sort of stick work warm-up. We like to do station work after, where we explain box lacrosse concepts such as setting picks and coming off of picks. And then we do our scrimmage portion towards the end. A scrimmage might be a small area game. It might be a 6v6, 2/3, or full floor game. But it isn't until after this next session do we do our draft, do we pick our teams, and then play in our league to a championship. That league play will start in January. So you're going to see a very similar curriculum over this next week. We will have a week off after that, which is when we start to figure out who's going to be drafted and who's going to be on what team. And then the fun will begin after we kind of turn the new year. Now we will train every week after the new year. We don't just play games, but we will play more games, and it'll get more competitive. So we do that because we want these box concepts to apply and to somehow make sure they're being incorporated into the gameplay. That is so important, and that's why we don't just have a league. I think leagues don't enforce or reinforce the proper way to play the game. I think you just kind of default to the things that you do best, and that's all you really do because you want to obviously succeed and win the game. But I think when you do some sort of training, stick work, conceptual learning, I think if you learn intricate concepts, nuances of a game right before you go out there and scrimmage, I think without a doubt you are going to be applying those things to the scrimmage portion. I think it's going to really help your game. All right, so we have our next box session, same place, same time for everybody on Saturday. Keep in mind, this is the last day before the holidays. If you want to get a little something, Coach Wink will be selling some FLG apparel. We have pretty much everything left in stock, but some stuff, especially I noticed those beanies and the sweatshirts are going quick. So if you want those, make sure to come early and get yourself, especially you guys and young ladies, get your parents something nice for Christmas. All right, so we'll see you guys next time, and take care.